Welcome to Street Knowledge with Chris Graham.
Welcome to the podcast. Chris Graham and Rod Mullins. We're going to talk some NASCAR with you here today. And Rod, let's start back in Texas, back on the weekend. Joey Logano grinding out a NASCAR Cup Series win. How did Joey do it?
Joey did it by just sitting back there and waiting for the time was right, and then therefore he came up with the win. It's kind of like you wait till the very end to make your move and to do that. And in NASCAR, a lot of times that kind of pays off for you. But for him this time around, it was just one of those Joey Logano things. He kind of just did that. Of course, winning his 37th career victory, crossed the finish line ahead of Ross Chastain. I guess really the person to talk about in this one is Ross Chastain. Logano started 27th. He worked his way back up through the field, and here you had Ross Chastain, who was in that much trouble too to begin with, and then he worked his way back up and just about made a race of it and just about snatched it away from Joey Logano. And here we are talking about Joey Logano just last week and Chipper Jones and all this stuff going on. And it's kind of like he takes this win and he rubs it in our face, just to say, ha ha, this is what I'm going to do for you guys since you've talked about me last week and Chipper Jones has talked about me. I'm just going to go and win a race. And that's what he did. So.
Feel bad for Michael McDowell. He had the lead for a while there towards the end, but ended up crashing a few laps before the final. And I know there was an overtime restart and everything else, but McDowell put a good run in there, but with the crash ends up in 26th place. You feel bad for him. He had a good run.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he has switched over. He's in a Chevrolet this year. He was in a Ford, but he switched over, and he had taken the lead on that lap 245 restart. He'd made it through two cautions, but then when that happened, boom, it was turbulent air behind Blaney is what he ended up, or I think what ended up being said about it. McDowell lost control of his vehicle. He crashed into the turn two wall, and I think probably not cursing about it, not getting upset, and not blowing his top out of the whole thing. He just simply said on the radio to him, he said, "Sorry, boys, I tried." And that's all you could ask of a driver. And, he's had some rough times that I don't know if you remembered or not, but back, several years ago when he was driving the Aaron's machine, just took off at Texas coming out of the turn, and this was during I think a qualifying session, and he crashed the wall, and I thought, man, he's gone, and he ended up coming out of it. Michael McDowell's a great driver. He's just kind of lucked into a couple of wins and the way things have worked out for him, but give him some time. I think he's probably going to pull something off, especially with Spire Motorsports being with them this season.
So we talked about McDowell, who led a good bit of this race, getting caught up in a wreck. Three other guys who led a good number of laps in this race also had their races cut short by crashes. Josh Berry, Austin Cindric, Carson Hocevar, who won the pole, all led for lengthy stretches, all ended up caught up in crashes. Tough days for them as well.
Yeah, tough days for them all together. And, Chastain too. Let's look at that again. Chastain had that starting 31st. And, like I said, he worked his way up, and these guys had done really well. And Texas had been very favorable for him. You thought that Cindric was going to go and maybe make it the possibility of going winning two races in a row, but it didn't end up being that way. It's just, all this thing. I think what you really want to say about it, Ross Chastain kind of said it plain and simple. He said, it's the little stuff. It's the little stuff, the small stuff. It doesn't make sense, but it's the little stuff. That's usually what happens in a race.
So we're going to go short and sweet this week with our podcast. We've been having so much fun lately. We got to average things out here a little bit. This weekend in Kansas Speedway on Sunday, FS1. What can we look forward to there? Who typically runs well, and who might we be putting our money on if we were to do so for the Sunday race?
Right now, I'm about ready to just throw paperwork to the wind on this one. I don't really know what's going to happen with this race. Chase Elliott has ran well there. Chase Elliott needs a good finish. He's not been finishing very well here in the last couple of races as of late. Had been, pretty much top 10 all around, and then now suddenly has started eroding away. And that's something that I think a lot of people are probably wondering about. When is Rick Hendrick or Chad Knaus or whoever with the Hendrick group going to make the move to do a crew chief change? Because there have been people talking left and right about a crew chief change, and that Chase Elliott needs one. I don't really agree with that. I just think it's been bad luck. I think in some ways, I think he's kind of gun shy about some things. He's not had a good enough car. Maybe has run up front in some of the races, but I just don't think he's had enough to get it done. That relies and falls on the team more so than it does just on the crew chief. I mean, the crew chief runs things in the pits, but I think it has a lot to do with the team, and it also has to do with the driver too. So I don't know what we could see out of Chase Elliott and everything this weekend. We might be able to see something that's kind of a little bit more beneficial. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. And then also Joey Logano, hot here as of late. Picks up this win. He's kind of got his season rejuvenated here all of a sudden, and so we could be looking at a Joey Logano race, a victory out of that. But let's not count some people out. There's some people that still dark horses in this whole thing. I really would give it edge right now. I think that they've got it dialed in. It's just a matter of being able to pick up that second win. Is Josh Berry and the Wood brothers. I think they've got the possibility of a chance of pulling off another win, but they'd love to do it somewhere other than the typical tracks of what people know them for. They win tracks, or they win at these tracks that have been good to them in the past. But here's a Kansas track. This is a Kansas track that is different from most of the other tracks that they run on. So we'll just have to wait and see. It could be just about anybody coming up this weekend. Like I said, throwing it all to the wind. And all this stuff going on this weekend with Kansas. I was about to forget one thing that we were talking about. We talked about the Fox thing, the article last week. I can't believe the people that came out of the woodwork this past weekend over Jamie Little on Fox. Jamie Little is their female sportscaster that they have on the she calls the ARCA races, truck races, I think is what she calls now. And fans were they were just tearing her up this past weekend. And I think she's probably one of the better announcers that they have, female announcers, at least that much for the sport. But hey, it's a free for all this season on Fox. There's a lot of people chomping at the bit trying to find out what it's going to be like when Adam Alexander, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Steve Letarte, all of them get together here for TNT, Amazon's coverage, what they're going to be having coming up here. It's going to be interesting as the season progresses on, because Fox is going to be giving all this stuff up right at the time we go to Charlotte. And that's always been a big race right there at Charlotte. And if I'm not mistaken, Amazon's going to be the one carrying this race at Charlotte. So we'll see a lot of changes between now and then. I know Mike Joy has pretty much said, I'm in for the long haul. We'll just have to wait and see what's going on.
What are you working on for Dickinson Media, your day job? What's going on down in Dickinson County?
I've got a lot of things we're working on right now. I think the big thing probably right now has been the attack, the MS-13 attack on the corrections officers. It's been an interesting week so far. I think you've had a lot of people suddenly perk up and take notice about some things about what they could be going through, what sort of things that the corrections officers go through. But it also has shed, I think, a little bit of undue light on this whole thing about immigration and these people that are in the country that are in here illegally in the first place. And here you've got MS-13 gang members, and five of those six were MS-13. You had one of another gang, and he was a United States citizen, had been a U.S. citizen. But they've got some issues. They've got some issues they're going to have to deal with. And I heard given just well, probably just a little while ago. Um, there's already been inquiries in here about Secret Service, ICE, other people possibly, finding the time to come and get these guys. And I reckon they're going to be deported the way it's all sounding before it's over with. And they're right now they moved them from Wallens Ridge, where the attack took place, and they moved them to Red Onion, which is the one that's got the most famous reputation of all, with all these human rights groups and so forth, of the way that they treat, supposedly the way they treat their inmates. It's going to be interesting, I think, in the next couple of days. I've also heard a rumor too that our president may have even made a contact with someone at the prison this past week, talking about this attack. So I don't know. It's That's one thing we're following right now, especially very close, because there are people in this area that have long denied that there are gangs, MS-13, any kind of connection. But they're just about everywhere. You have to admit it. They're about everywhere. And not everybody has to be front and center to be one of these gang members. And here it happened. It happened in prison, probably what they would think of being the most secure place in the world, of being keeping something from that happening. Uh, it happened. It didn't make any difference.
Isn't it a reality of prisons though that everybody's in a gang pretty much? There's the Aryan Nation gangs, there's Latino gangs, there's black gangs, there's I mean it's part of the way the ecosystem works. You join a gang for protection, not necessarily because you're a gang member. And then on top of that, then you have people who are actual out in the real world gang members who get sent to prison, then bring the gang with them. So I can't imagine that life is your son is a corrections officer. I can't imagine, for the low pay and the long hours and the lack of safety for the people who work in the prisons. I can't imagine people doing that job every day.
I think what bothers me the most about it is the fact that when he got ready to go in, the first thing they gave him was a whistle. And they told him, said, here's your whistle, put it up here on your shoulder and stuff. And our neighbor, who has since passed away, he passed away probably about a year after my dad passed away. He was still working in the prison system, and they handed him his whistle. They had taken everything from their belts and everything else that they had, no sticks, anything like that. And he said, well, what am I supposed to do with the whistle? Said, well, if you get in trouble, blow that whistle. That means to call. And it's like, I'm not going to have enough time to be able to pull my shirt down to be able to do that whistle and everything. People have to understand something, and I've tried to convey this, I think, in an article once before that I wrote for Dickinson Media. We have people that do not have any concept or any idea what life is like behind those walls. We have no there. I can't even begin to let it sink in with me. I just know there's bad people there. There's bad people. There's child rapists, molesters, things like that, and so forth. And then you think about that, and then you have young children, grandchildren, like I have in this case, and you're like, you want to do everything in the world to protect them from something like that happening in the real world. But this stuff goes on. It doesn't make any difference. This stuff goes on every day. It's a fight for survival. It's the law of the jungle, is the way it is in the prison system. Um, I kind of think back to that. I think back to that Kurt Russell movie from the early '80s, Escape from New York. Maybe it's going to come to that. We're going to have to go and just put them in a maximum security facility on an island somewhere and let them fend for themselves, because, obviously everybody's going to be down the corrections officers' throats and stuff for treating them this way. And gosh, I mean, Chris, you think about it. How many times could you stand being spit in the face, or having urine, feces, or anything like that thrown at you when you come to do a cell check or anything like that? That's the reality of it. These people are, some of them are there and they've realized what they've done. Others are there and they don't care. It's just to make life miserable for somebody else that's out there.
Yeah, it's not easy because you're still talking about people too. And they deserve human dignity, whether, in every case they live with the dignity themselves. It's tough. It's tough. And yeah, you're right. People don't think about it. We send them. I mean, you live in the southwest part of the state, in a rural area. We tend to, we put these prisons in places where the majority of people don't have to think about it and see it and that kind of thing. So, um, for a reason, people like to just sweep stuff under the rug. Literally, that's what we're kind of doing there.
Yeah. So
So. Hey, how far is Big Stone Gap from Dickinson County? Is Big Stone Gap in Dickinson County? I don't know the geography there.
Big Gap is in Wise County. It's about 45 minutes away, 45 to
Okay.
50 minutes. Not a bad trip. You've got good road and everything in between now. Before they had the 23 put in there and four laned all the way, probably about a little over an hour. Probably about an hour is what it would take you because you had to go back road and everything else just to get there, either through what we call the valley, Powell Valley, or having to go the business route 23, which was just as curvy as the valley road. So once they put the four lane through there and the structure, yeah, probably about 50 minutes, probably what we're looking at.
So the prison's there, but I hope I'm right on this. Big Stone Gap, wasn't that also the home of Thomas Jones?
Yeah.
Wasn't that where he was
Thomas.
from? Thomas Jones, for our listeners out there who may not remember, the
Yeah.
great UVA football player who then went on to become a great NFL running back, now is an actor,
Yeah.
pretty good actor too. So,
Yeah.
um,
And his brother Julius from there too. So both of them from there
well,
and everything.
Julius went to Notre Dame, so I don't want to talk about him.
Well, I understand. But and I think if I'm not mistaken, I believe I'd have to go back and check, but for some reason, I want to say that Thomas Jones's dad was a corrections officer for a little while and stuff. He served in that capacity. So, you know, uh, this is a job of where it doesn't make as much money as what people would think in the coal industry and so forth and all, but you're making better money, but at what expense? And it's not exactly the physical threat as much as it is the mental. If you get over the physical thing and you never get attacked or anything ever happens to you, you're okay, but you're going to see things and you're going to hear things and they're going to say things to you that mentally are going to get under your skin. And that's what they do. They push the right buttons. They know how to push the buttons. That's what would probably be my downfall about it because there's certain things gets to me and certain things how it's said, and then boom, I kind of go off, and I can't be that way. I can't be that way at all. I mean, there's a difference between prison and then teaching school. There's a big difference between the two of them. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, Dickinson Media for Rod's local news down in Southwest Virginia. Also, check out AugustaFreePress.com, of course, for Rod's stories, columns on the NASCAR, NHRA, and other stuff in the world of auto racing. Well, Rod, as always, thank you for your time, your insights. Always great talking with you.
no problem. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.